Sometimes it's just good to get back to what this genre used to be all about.
What? Are you alright?
No.
And today we have X.
Gon' give it to you.
I gotta say, I can't say the most creative title for a film, but it's definitely like one of the most unique ones for this year. Like just X, one letter. You don't see that a lot, so it's kind of funny because when I invited friends to go out and see this movie, I was like, "Do you want to see X?" And they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? What is that?" Like they didn't know I was talking about a movie. As usual, I am the only guy who has all these new films popping up in my feed, especially when it's A24, which I like just about everything that A24 helps to produce and distribute. So when I found out that there was a horror film coming out, like a horror film, borderline porno, starring Mia Goth, I was like, you know what? We got TNA. And we got some V&G, violence and gore. So it's like, okay, sure, here we are. As usual, I learned my order of operations way back in film school. So we have director Ty West, who turns out a director that I didn't know I knew, if that makes any sense. Very large filmography, mainly in the horror genre or subgenres of horror. A little bit of everything that makes my skin crawl. Everything from supernatural horror to some body horror to found footage to like religious horror, which between body and horror and religious horror, it gives MovieMan the shivers, so keep that in mind. What I know him from, so one was a film that I gotta watch again because I remember seeing it. I don't remember feeling too strongly one way or the other about it, but he did The Innkeepers, which was like a supernatural horror film. I gotta rewatch that and give it another go, because I remember it being creepy, and that's it. Besides that, he did one of my favorite little found footage bits that spawned an anthology series of hit or miss short stories, VHS. I like VHS. It's just an anthology of non sequitur, really like dark, basically like snuff films. But they're each one's a creative plot that involves either sci-fi or human elements that all have their own little self-contained stories. It's a whole thing. Point is, this guy knows he knows how to do horror. He's been in the business of doing horror film for a while. So there's a lot to talk about with the cast. Like I said, it stars Mia Goth. If you don't know who she is, she's been around more and more. Funny enough, what I know her from maybe might be not the same things you know her from, but I know her from one of my... I believe this film is so fucking underrated, but Cure for Wellness, again, horror film, one of the few horror films that a couple scenes in this one do make me squirm and make me legitimately uncomfortable. But this film, plug it for a second, Gore Verbinski, this has some of the best cinematography I've seen, especially in the first act, like in a film, period. Shows you what range she has. She was also in Emma, so the whole spectrum. She's familiar with horror, psychological horror. She's familiar with drama. We're familiar with period pieces. Like Mia Goth gets around, and honestly, she's a fine act. Also worth noting, she's like one of the primary group of these. I mean, there's a whole group of kids, and I could go into each one of them, but I'm being biased right now and only nitpicking the factoids that I like. My girl Jenna Ortega is back. Last covered on this channel when she was in her role in Scream, and again in good form, but still versed with horror, but a different facet, playing a different character, kind of like same kind of character but different. And I think she's turning into like a regular Scream queen here. She's got a good like horror Scream. We always look for those, the Jamie Lee Curtis's of the world, the horror Screams, the monstrous feminine. There's a book, read it. I don't know, start doing studies. We're getting into dangerous sexist waters now. Last two casting choices that I'll mention just because I find them to be funny. The fuck is Kid Cudi doing in this movie?
Cause day and night.
He's not bad. It was just kind of funny. The trailer dropped and all the comments in every single post where this movie's trailer was involved was like, what the fuck is Kid Cudi doing in this movie? Get to see his pecker. And then Brittany Snow, who apparently is from like the Pitch Perfect series. So Yeah, take that for what you will. Anyway, there's a whole cast of people. There's other people that are also of note that have a filmography, but those are the main ones I want to talk about. My general feeling about the film, and then go into my pros and cons real quick. I'll make this... So I'm starting to get a formula down for this review process. So overall, X, was it good? Yeah, it was actually really good. I thought it was really good. I'm not gonna lie, going into this, in my mind, I'm like, okay, horror film with, very obvious tropes are gonna be involved. Are we looking at another subversion of expectations? The most important question I had going in, are we looking at another cabin in the woods? And this isn't a spoiler alert, but it's worth telling you before you go see it. We're not. That's not bad. While there are some subversions of expectations and some minor subversions of horror tropes that are done very well, mind you, and not to the point where it gets super meta and turns into something like that. I assumed because A24, but no, honestly, this film is just... It's crazy to see it. Like, it's becoming more and more commonplace nowadays. A little bit here, a little bit there. Just a classic horror slasher. Frankly, and I saw the term used online, and I agree, it's a Grindhouse film. It feels like just a horror Grindhouse film. Now, is it a perfect or phenomenal, horror slasher film? No, there's some gripes I have and some nitpicks here and there. But honestly, I was hoping it would be good, and it was. And it was actually better than how I thought it was going to be. This was actually a really solid watch. It's a surprisingly simple take on just a classic genre. Just, we have our premise, you saw in the trailer, group of kids are going out to the middle of bumfuck Texas to go film a porno. And they're renting this little side guest house from this couple of old, elderly, decrepit, Texas chainsaw fucks, and then they don't know they're filming a porno there. So when they start discovering that there's sexy time going on, then bad stuff starts happening without getting too much into the plot of it. The trailer alludes to that much at the very least. So this film pays homage, as a lot of the good ones do, to the classics that came before, but also kind of stands itself apart as its own film. The house itself, and again, these are all things I'm pointing out that you can see in the trailer. The house itself is modeled, come on, it's modeled after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. Watch the movies, there's striking similarities. Even the guest house, in my opinion, I don't know if anybody else did believe this, but I thought so. I thought it was modeled loosely after the cabin from Evil Dead. That's what I thought. Maybe I was wrong, maybe it was a direct nod, I don't know. But there's a lot of nods to classic horror tropes throughout the film. A lot of them are kind of obvious setups, and they have payoffs that you would expect. There are some that definitely have payoffs I did not expect and were a pleasant surprise, and little twists or kind of creative jump scares. There's still classic jump scares that are okay, big audio cue, but there are some subversions of audio and video editing that kind of tricked me a little bit and got me a couple times in the film, so bravo there. Horror, slasher, pornography, it's what it is. You're not watching the penetration on screen, you know what I'm saying, but you're watching them film a porno for the first half of the movie, and then you're watching them get killed in the second half of the movie. Pretty much what the trailer suggests. You're seeing the tits, you're seeing the ass, you're seeing a couple of them peckers, a couple of them silhouetted peckers, and you're seeing some brutal kills. Speaking of the brutal kills, props again. If you want to get a full star tacked onto your film, in my book, you use, what is it? Again, survey says. That's right, practical effects. Most of the kills in this film, if not almost every kill in this film, except for, I think, 2, I guess, technically, but most of the kills that need to have practical effects, or any of the injuries sustained in this film, use practical effects, practical blood, prosthetics. I love all that shit. Looks great, functions great. A couple moments where it definitely needed to be digital for very obvious reasons once you watch the movie, but overall, no, it looked great. And again, it's that just bloody, gory, R-rated Grindhouse feel of just some surprisingly brutal kills. Given the situation, you wouldn't think the kills would be this brutal, and it's just the simplicity of the violence involved in some of these kills. It's just so I don't know, it's brutal and yet it's simple, through a few of them. It's just well shot and directed, great buildup of tension, all three of those things. A lot of great shots, a lot of creative shots, a lot of cool establishing shots, and different making use of background and foreground in a lot of these. Just great use of all of that. Great use of camera work and direction and environment and characters to all make these scenes that have a surprising amount of tension, even if you know ultimately how they're going to pan out. Half the time they pan out exactly how you think they will. Rest of the time, not so much. And that's what makes this film a surprising watch here and there. Most of the cast makes decent decisions. I say most of it. I'll get to that other con in a second. I mean, yeah, most of the cast, like, people kind of act according to their character, and for the most part, people aren't complete ignoramuses, but again, it's that classic formula Cabin in the Woods brings up. You got the horny teens going out to do X, Y, and Z, and they're not going to have all their screws tightened properly in their noggins, so you're expecting some dumb calls here and there. Cast gives good performances, everybody plays to their characters. It was a pleasant surprise to see Kid Cudi and even Brittany. I mean, Brittany Snow's been in films before, like, I mean, the Pitch Perfect films and whatnot, but like, everybody involved in this film felt like they were all the archetypes of this type of horror film, but they like still played the characters well and belonged there. Nothing ever felt out of place. People played their characters well, and I believed all of it. Like the horror, the tension, the horniness. The only cons I have, look, this film is really good. It's not amazing. Part of me, I count it as a con, but I shouldn't, is that, like, part of me, of course, is expecting some type of A24, again, Cabin in the Woods, subversion of expectations, Your Next style type of, like, twists, turns. I thought the trailer was advertising one kind of film, and it was going to pull the rug out from under you and be a different kind of film. That's the same thing I had with, like, Spider-Man No Way Home. I was going into that expecting absolute balls to the wall, bonkers type of shit that wasn't going to be coming until Multiverse of Madness. So part of it is management of my expectations. Going into this film with the mindset of just going to go see a horror slasher, borderline pornography, Grindhouse, really good horror film, perfect. It would meet all of its expectations in that regard. So that's kind of on me, but it still affected my enjoyment just enough for me to at least make that note. And while some characters made good decisions, some characters made very bad and questionable decisions, just some silly stuff where it's like, why would you do that? Why would, like, you just got hurt, why would you put yourself in a vulnerable position where you can get hurt more? This is going on, why would you make noise over here? Like, why would you go over here? Why would you do this? I mean, fucking, I don't know. Like, one of the characters was a Marine, and like, I don't think he really acts like a Marine, especially in the moments where it really counts. So it's like, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more logic and more consistency and continuity with some characters and their traits. For the most part, everybody follows their characters and has the appropriate, not arcs, definitely not arcs, kind of arcs, but they follow their character for the most part. But there's just some silly decisions that are made that, like, even back in 1979, which is when this film takes place, like, people would be a bit smarter than that. And some of them are smarter, but some of them definitely aren't. And my only other complaint, not every kill was great. Like, 75 to 80% of the kills in this movie were solid, good solid kills worthy of an R-rated, like, slasher horror film. But they were like, not every kill was like, again, some kills were simple, some kills were a little bit too simple, but by the third act, the way that the movie pans out kind of makes up for that. It kind of all ends a tad bit, I don't know if I would say suddenly, but it kind of wraps up just like kind of quickly in the very, very end of it all, but not enough to like sink the film too much. But that's about all I gotta say. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Watch the trailer. Just type in X trailer. It'll bring it up for sure. If you want to know what you're getting into. When you see the trailer, there's nothing too much deeper than that. Like, that's what you're getting. If you're a fan, I'll say this: if you're a fan of horror like me, and you like horror, if you like slasher horror, if you like that old like Grindhouse kind of feel for horror, where it's like, oh, we got it's grimy and there's questionable actions being done. You're getting some nudity and all this, and we're watching this late night on HBO back in the day or whatever. Like, you're probably gonna really enjoy this film. I went in expecting myself to, at the very least, enjoy a mediocre, maybe B-list film, and I was very pleasantly surprised. It's it's just a well done, simple but effective horror film, slasher film, and yeah, I recommend it for those reasons. But at the same time, for the main cons that I have, it's not amazing. Some character decisions are questionable, and lack of logic takes me out of it a little bit. Low-key, I was hoping for more innovation and subversion. Not all the kills were like great kills, but for those reasons and just like overall enjoyment, I really enjoyed the film. I would watch it again. I might buy it. I would definitely recommend it, but I can't say it was a perfect film. But it was good enough. Again, feeling generous, I would say I'd give it like a low 4 out of 5. I don't know. I'm tempted to give it a 4. This is the first time that I'm like, I'm deciding right now while I'm doing this. Like, does it really deserve a solid 4? Reviews have been surprisingly kind for a film of its caliber. Horror films aren't typically looked upon by like a lot of film critics in a positive light, but people like X, and that kind of is influencing my decision a little bit. I don't know. I think it was really good. I don't think it was like fantastic. I'll go with my gut, my original answer. I give it a low 4 out of 5. A low 4 out of 5. I would say it's worth it in theaters. I mean, you're going to be watching sex scenes, possibly in a theater like we were, where there's a bunch of other people, and that might get awkward. And there's at least one sex scene that's kind of disturbing. So it depends what you're comfortable watching out in public with strangers. I'll say that much. But I'll tell you, you could easily buy this one, watch it later, stream it at some point in the future if it makes it a streaming platform, something like that. But I would say if you're looking for a good time with the friends, or want to go take your girlfriend to go see a risque horror film get her maybe in the mood, depends what she's into. Hashtag blood play. But yeah, so I say it's worth it. It's a solid horror flick. It reminds me of the horror flicks of old, so I'll leave it at that. But that was my review of X. If you have anything to say it below as always, whether you agree, whether you disagree, anything like that, just let me know. But in the meantime, that's all I got for you. So yeah, stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. Goodbye, travelers.